ultimately that's up to the OLG, but I would assume that they'd want to keep the facility open because it provides a significant amount of revenue for the province. So it would be in their best interest to keep a gaming facility. But my hope is that there would be a significant amount of interest on the part of those people who want to redevelop the site, and we'll see when the RFP process goes.
Building a casino at RCR, is there enough people there to facilitate that and to lure people from Gatineau?
Well, you know, there's no question it will not be as lucrative financially as one would be downtown. I think that's a pretty fair statement to make. But, you know, when you look at the tourism attractions in this region, the Gatineau Casino is number 1, Gatineau Park is number 2, and Rideau Carleton is number 3. So there's a fairly significant number of people that are already going there. Anytime I've been there, I see a pretty full parking lot. But there's no question that there would probably be more tourism draw to a downtown casino than there would be to Rideau Carleton. But at the end of the day, you know, what we're facing is that we want it to be treated in the same fashion and vein as Toronto, both on the funding formula, which we won that battle, and on the different zones for Woodbine in Toronto and Rideau Carleton in Ottawa. And OLG was not prepared to go down that route, so I thought this was the most sensible way to go forward at that point.
So back to Stephanie's question then, why were you willing at that point to risk Rideau Carleton and you're no longer willing to do that?
No, because I thought that in the conversation subsequent, when I met with Mr. Godfrey and had a telephone conversation with him, that there was a willingness to entertain a secondary operation. And I thought it was a reasonable request because Toronto had a special status with 2 zones within the boundaries of the City of Toronto. So all I was asking for is to be treated the same way both on the funding formula and on the location of the sites. When it became apparently clear in the last several weeks, the last month, that they were not prepared to open up a second zone or even consider a satellite, then the chances of Rideau Carleton winning it against perhaps a bigger player in the downtown core was going to be remote, and then Rideau Carleton would be off and out of business altogether, and I wasn't prepared to go down that route. And the second thing is, I think you saw that even though there was, I think, a 19-5 vote of council, there were a fair number of members of council who were voting, and if you go back and listen to their comments, they were voting, but they also wanted to make sure that there was a role for Rideau Carleton Raceway. So that was certainly something I heard from members of council over the course of the last couple of months as well as the public.
I should have said when the talk of modernization first came up. You appeared willing to risk the Rideau Carleton Raceway because you saw, as the OLG did, that the real moneymaker was a downtown casino.
Well, that was my first priority, yes. That was the first preference because I was asked where I thought that the best location was. And if we were not going to have the option of Rideau Carleton Raceway as the standalone only bidder, because my March 2011 motion was in essence put aside because the modernization process came into place, then that would have been the option. But subsequent to that and subsequent to the meetings I had with the OLG and correspondence and so on, I wrote to them, asked specifically if we could be given that designation, and I called it a satellite, and the chair of the OLG wrote back to me and indicated that no, they were not going to consider that. So the risk we had is if we were to simply go ahead and allow bidders to choose any location, there was a very high risk that Rideau Carleton would not win the bid, and they'd be out of it altogether, and I wasn't prepared to go down that route. And
but you had been originally. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
You knew the risk, though, at that original vote. You knew the risk because you didn't attach any formal conditions to the RCR, and you didn't have the conversations until after.
No, the very fact that I seconded the motion on that
had no
day.
teeth. That's not.
I'm sorry. I think it
unlike
did.
Kingston City Council, which said it can't be in our central business, it was a suggestion, and you've admitted.
No, it wasn't a suggestion. It was a past resolution that we indicated we wanted to be on a level playing field.
Sure, but it didn't say it had to be at RCR.
Even if it had teeth, there was no guarantee.
We're going to disagree on that, and the position I've taken is that I think what we're trying to do on a go-forward basis to make sure that there is a role for RCR, and the only way that I felt comfortable that we could actually guarantee that at this stage was to limit the site to the RCR Senate.